Okay, here we are, the 5th of June 2019. Now the TATS website in its wisdom is not providing us with any figures for today, so there is changes coming for that website, so we'll have to make adjustments for that if the prices are no longer showing. But for now, we'll just push on very briefly looking at the last couple of races at Belmont. Where the rail's out 12 metres, so again it's not ideal, but the track is large, so the rail out there is not the end of the world, but not ideal. The other tracks are wet and a variety of other factors. So we'll just look at the last two races of Belmont very quickly. This second last race, a 2,000 metre race, lots of starts, 13% places, 35%. 13% winners, at least 35% places. We'll just have a look at this is sorting the market according to the top few picks on the market. We'll just consider the top. Good thing to do generally is to look at the horses under $20 in the market. They may or may not be successful, but that's one approach that you can look at. There are a couple of scratchings in this race that were taken out. 7 and 11, they've drawn barriers 1 and 2, so that would of course bring all the other horses in. There's no adjustment for the barrier without the figures updating. But anyway, we'll press on anyway. Unending has run second last start in a slightly longer race, had a bad barrier, better barrier today, 11 days since its last run. This has to be a strong chance. The next one, Not Again Ken, 6-year-old gelding. I thought he was older than that. Anyway, he's won a race at Albany recently, much weaker race with slightly less weight on a wet track. I would be thinking, and his current form's bad, I would be preferring him on that. Pure Gem has run a third at Albany a few runs back. It did win at Ping, which is a non-TAB track, by 6 lengths when leading, so that's pretty good. Recent tracks have been runs at least have been on wet tracks. It looks probably a place chance. Press the Pedal. Press the Pedal's arguably the best horse in this race. Has been finishing reasonably close up and racing well. Has to be some chance. 3 weeks off is a bit of a concern, and barrier 10. So it's not brilliantly presented. And Dark Royalty. Dark Royalty is running in similar races and racing well without doing brilliantly. So it has been running in slightly stronger 68 races, and this is a 64. So it is down in class a little bit, but it's gone from 56 up to 59. So in other words, it's got no relief in terms of, you wouldn't really expect it to be performing any better based on those figures. So the other thing we'll have a look at now is the replays. The black book feature's not working, so ignore that one. On the replays, we've got 4 horses that run each other last time at Pinjarra, 22nd of the 5th, so that's a reasonably recent race. Having a look at that, Magic Las Vegas, Pure Gem, Unending, and Plead the 5th. It's always a good idea to go on the worksheet to see. We didn't finish that one, so let's finish this off. We'll say Prefer, and that was it, I think, for what we've got. So if we sort this, we've got 6 and 2 are the horses that we like on this race in theory. Having a look at this, Unending was in this race along with the other 3 horses. If we sort in terms of, now these are the comparisons, comparing the run of the horse and comparing the previous weight with the current weight adjusted for the beaten margin. If that doesn't make sense, well, too bad. Basically these ratings here adjust everything. So in other words, on the basis of this last run, Unending should beat these others. Okay, now the other thing that you can look at is the the difference, come up with a word that we can say, the difference between the barriers. So Unending went from barrier 12 there to barrier 6. So in other words, it's considerably better off in terms of barrier. Magic Las Vegas on the other hand has gone from barrier 1 to barrier 11, worse off. 6 to 4 is a bit better, 7 to 12 is not good. Now of course these factors, when you look at where the horse was in the run, this horse got a long way back from barrier 7, so from barrier 12 it's hardly going to be any closer unless they're trying some other tactic. Same thing with this horse here, it's got back from barrier 6. Barrier 4 it might race a bit handier. This horse from barrier 1 raced handy and now it's got barrier 11, so it's going to have to work a lot harder to get over in theory. And this horse from barrier 12 last start looks like it probably went forward. Today it probably won't need to use up as much petrol early in the run. So in other words, 6 looks, quite apart from being on top on the figures, it also looks to have a real edge over these other 3 horses. So that's that one. If we have a look at one of the other ones, you can sort this according to date. Like for example here we have 14th of the 4th 2016. There's no real point checking that, it's too far back. But if you look at the recent runs, well, we've got 25th of the 5th, we've got Unending again, and again Unending has Dark Royalty and Not Again Ken on the figures, fairly well beaten. The other race that a few of them ran in was the Mount Barker Cup, so let's have a look at that. In that race we had Press the Pedal, worse barrier, slightly worse weight, beat Pure Gem and Dark Royalty. So in theory you would expect Press the Pedal probably to beat them again, but you know, all things being equal they rarely are. And you could have a look at some other ones of these. Again, we've got to try to keep this recording under a certain time. So in terms of this first leg of the double, if we're going to go for a double, and again, no point going super wide on these doubles, we just take 6 and 2 in the first leg. In terms of finding a horse to lay, well, we don't have any prices here, so for now we'll leave the lay bet. The lay bet hasn't proven to be that successful lately, but it is a great concept when you find a good bet to lay. So anyway, we'll go over to the last race. Okay, and the last race 2 and 7 are both scratched. So if we have a look at the market, well, there's 7. That wasn't scratched at the time. 2 was already scratched when the fields came out. So again, the same thing. We can have a quick look at the top few horses. Maddie's Choice, not really racing that well. 55 kilos from barrier 12, has now got 54.5 from barrier 3. So you could see the horse could improve, but it's not really racing that well. Back in distance, it's only a really good recent run was over 1500 some time ago. You could have it as some sort of chance, so I'll say some chance. Salubrious, same kind of thing, although again last time barrier 15 beaten 4.3 lengths in a 75 rate. This is a 61, so it's down, way down in class in theory, but it's gone from 55.5 up to 60.5. So in other words, where its compensation for class drop has been more than added to, and that's with Chloe as a party with a 2 kilo claim. So this horse is not brilliantly positioned either. We'll say it's some chance also. Niconi's Boy, first up. Look at its first up record, 2 for Zip, and second up 2 for Zip. So we'd have to be saying prefer first up. Of course, that doesn't mean it can't win. Fair Ado, 5th, first up in a similar race, and worst barrier, it was a wet track. It does have a win at Ascot over 1400. This is Ascot at Belmont. This is at least the races at Belmont. So it's got a win over that sort of trip, so we'd have to say some chance. The favourites in the race are 1, 3, 4 and 9. Looking over at those, out of what we have here, we only like the 1 and the 9 out of those. Now we can have a look again at the replays. Nothing really of any great note here. We've got a 5th of the 5th run. Neither of those are really of any interest to us. We can now also have a look at the gear changes. None of these are going to make a huge difference. We can also have a look at the sectional ratings to see if they can give us a more of a pointer. So here we have 5 and 6, 5, 6 and 9 are on the top here. We haven't really considered the 5 at all. And the 6, the 5, the 6 and the 9, so we'll have a quick look at 5. First up at Kalgoorlie, it's made the trek back to the city, so I think we'll prefer that one. 6, Pelican Pick, same thing, he seems to be moving around a fair bit, so who knows how well the horse is going to travel. Barrier 12, we'll prefer that one as well. 9, we already have that as one of the selections already. On the second last, Nakoni's Boy is the next one down, so perhaps he might fire first up, but we can't be worrying about that. Looking at the second last sectional times, there was 3 that had fairly high ratings, 6, 7 and 10. So 6 we've already considered. 7, let's have a look at the 7. He's run a third at York. Now York is a track where they run very fast times, not necessarily being of any quality. So he's also got a bad barrier. He did win a race at Belmont in a Class 1 and a 59 on a soft 7 track. So today in theory it's a good fall. So we'd have to be preferring him as well. And the other one was the 10 Frosty Bay. Again, same thing, running at York. It's been running at Broome, which is more of a lesser style track, so we'd have to be preferring him as well. The only other one of interest, well, except for those other horses, is Demos, who is also considered to be some chance. Clearly a pretty good horse is Demos, looking at its form. And 5-year-old gelding. First up only after 105 days, and he's had one trial where he was only just beaten. So without looking at the trial, you'd have to say he would be some chance of winning this. Now if we're going to go for a double, we may as well throw him in. So some chance. So sorting it by chances, we have the 9, the 1, the 4 and the 12. So 1, 4, 9 and 12 in the second leg. So I'll take the 2 in the first leg and we'll go into these 4 in the second leg and basically hope for the best. That's about all we can do for today. Hopefully the prices will come back tomorrow and we'll be able to do a more substantial analysis. The program is in the process of being upgraded to get the prices from another location, but that's not completed at the moment. So anyway, we'll just press on as best we can for today, see how we go with these doubles.